Hello, beautiful family. I have something sent with me, although I'm standing, that is relevant for everybody. And I believe it's important for us to grasp conceptually. Now, we can say that we live in this three-dimensional reality, 3D reality. However, I want to replace that word dimension, 3D, third dimension. I want to replace that word with density. So instead of third dimension, we can say we live in this earthly third density reality in which we perceive the world outwardly through our five sense faculties, our five sense organs. And as it is all of our eventual evolutionary destiny to rise in energy and density. And ironically, the higher in density you get, the fourth, fifth, sixth, the higher in density you get, the less physicality, the less density, the higher you get in density. You're less tied to the third dimension, the third density, the earthly reality, because you increase in energy, non-physical dimension of energy, as you progress along the spectrum, that upward spiral momentum that we can call the mother-father creator within each of us. And I say mother, father, creator. I've mentioned it in a couple other videos, and I shed some light upon that now, because some of us may have a conceptual image of a father creator. And it's important to incorporate that divine feminine aspect as well. So I say mother, father, creator, because we want both of these forces within us to be operating at full force and in proper balance, so that they can rise up the spine and all of our energy bodies, all of the chakras at full force, fully active. We don't want to just be polarized to the masculine or polarized to the feminine, either which way. We want both of them to be operating harmoniously and completely and wholly. And thus we can increase and rise that energy within us into higher densities, into higher perceptions of reality. And I say perception, I'm not talking about intellectually, I'm talking about viscerally and sensory, even beyond the five senses. You can feel the world as an extension, as if that which surrounds us is a part of the very cells of our body. It's the same organism expressing simultaneously. And we'll realize this as we increase in density. We can say that, to appeal intellectually, we can say that the third dimensional reality, the 3D reality, relates to the solar plexus, kind of a personal identity, right? Which is also related to drivenness and wantingness and personal ambition. And as we rise in energy and density, we'll realize that personal ambition is kind of like a poison, because it serves as hindrance to a true sense of peace and oneness and wholeness. And when we transcend that, we rise up into the heart space, and that's more of a space of love. And it's unconditional love. It's loving a child that you meet on the street the same as you would a serial killer or a murderer, because there's no judgments. It's loving them the same way that you would your own children. And you might think, wow, that's to betray my child, my love for my child, to love somebody else in the same way. But I'd argue and I'd say that it's not, because true unconditional love actually doesn't really have to do with a relationship, which is an attachment, really, an investment. You might think, well, I've invested so much in this relationship. And that implication is thinking in terms of, again, personal history and personal memory. In the Bible, it says, Jesus says, if you want to be one with me, with I amness, that which is all around us now, if you want to be completely present and whole in this moment, then we got to think beyond your family, your personal relationships, even. Think beyond your father, your mother, your sister, your brother, your son or your daughter. Because pure awareness, that essence, I say essence, that energy, which is directly related to that awareness, they're both. And also lovingness, because what's awareness without love? You want to be whole and complete. Of course, we can be pure awareness. But if love is absent, then it's kind of dry, right? There's no juice. So we want to rise up to the heart space so that we can feel that unconditionalness, that love that knows no bounds. It's limitless. It's global. Reason has to do with form, has to do with the content of the world. And it's great to navigate and to discern and to have an intellectual understanding. There's always that mental aspect that we yearn to satisfy as human beings. But after a certain point, a certain length of self analysis, kind of like an intellectual scalpel, right? Going within and really doing soul searching and asking yourself questions, self inquiry, and digging deep into the subconscious. After a certain amount of time, you want to transcend that and to operate from a heart space. And it's not to say that you can't have both, the best of both worlds, to be and operate both intellectually and wholeheartedly. They can be simultaneously operating from a heart space, the mind and the heart. In fact, to be a whole and complete person, we want to use our mind, use our heart, and to use the body. You don't want to neglect any aspect. So as we rise in density, rise up to the heart space, allow the energy to rise within us, the energy we can call Kundalini Shakti, our universal primordial energy, which is inherent to everything. That same energy, which we can feel as the so-called other, simultaneously expressing automatically, doing and staying perfectly. Absolutely no resistance, resistance free, because they're joyous. This is a joyous journey as we traverse this reality, this three-dimensional reality that we can call earthly. But we want to understand conceptually that there is realities beyond this, other worlds. Look up into the sky. Wow, it's limitless. Sky's the limit, because This human experience knows no bounds. This world is a place. Any thinking person can come to the conclusion that this world is a place where there's no limit to intellectual and spiritual development. There's endless opportunity. We can have that self-honesty and humility and these virtuous qualities, which we can even say self-sacrifice is a great quality, but we don't have to see it as sacrifice, because really it's more of an opportunity. This world is filled with opportunities. We can see mistakes and successes equally, and that they're equally valuable and equally beneficial to our personal experience as we personally evolve in soul evolution and figure out what our soul contract is, what we're here to do, what you're here to do. See, bring forth, and manifest, and realize as part of your soul's journey. So that when you leave the form that you're in and you incarnate in a different one, you'll have learned your lessons. There's always room for growth. And as we transcend even the heart space to the throat chakra, speaking truth, sound, silence emits sound, the sound of silence, the bliss that is inherent within us that we need not seek without. And as we increase in energy, increase in density, as we level up in terms of chakras, see, there's this book called Power versus Force. And in it, there's the scale of consciousness. So as we level up in consciousness, as we level up in energy bodies, in chakra, in density, see, these are all conceptual models pointing at the same truth. There are different ways of expressing it that are all really, in essence, pointing to the same thing. So many different ways to express the same thing. 300 different degrees to every perspective. So many different ways that we can express and bring our uniqueness to the world. Of course, we're all in this together. But each of us are unique. We each have something unique to contribute. We each have a unique purpose. That's why we want to go within and discover this. Want to operate from a space of freedom. And we don't want to confuse freedom with liberty, because liberty has to do with social consequences and social conditions, whereas freedom is really an independent inner state of non-resistance, of complete acceptance, accepting what is. And we're all on a journey of self-acceptance. It's one of the reasons I get on here and speak like this, because potentially somebody can see this and maybe it can alleviate some emotional resistance that they may be going through, that you may be going through. Because there was a time where I definitely didn't accept myself wholeheartedly. And now that I do, I can come on here and express candidly, openly. I want to reiterate that whatever I can do, you can do. Whatever anybody else has done, you can do. See, there's a lot of beliefs that we may have picked up and accumulated as part of our personal journey in childhood, whether it be the education system or our parents, whether they knew better or not. We may have absorbed some negative beliefs, some negativity. And part of our spiritual journey is to realize those beliefs so that we can let them go and release them. And we can embody a higher energy as a result and not be bogged down by negativity so that we can view the world positively, optimistically, and thus more harmoniously. And we can feel that sense of connectivity as we rise in density and energy. We embody a higher energy. This earthly reality, unfortunately, there's a lot of entities that are disembodied. They have squandered their life force, that mother, father, creator essence, that energy which is inherent with everything. They squander it because they're bogged down by negativity, and thus they seek to serve only their personality, and their personal whims and fancies, their personal will, and thus they are stuck in the pleasure trap. And I was at one point too. I'm not judging anybody. They seek that energy outside of themselves. What we really seek is a higher frequency, a higher density, to rise our energy up to the higher chakras, to perceive the world through a higher level of consciousness. Again, all the same things. What we really seek is a higher frequency, not pleasure outwardly, because again, that bliss is inherent inwardly. The energy is inherent within us. It's our source, the source of our existence. It's very joyous. And when we operate from a higher level of consciousness, we don't really need anything outside of us because we're in tune with that constant source that's within us. And we're not disembodied because we've embodied it to its fullest. And we're constantly conscious of this energy within us. And thus we don't squander it. We don't waste it. We preserve it. Whether it be through fasting, whether it be through meditating, where your attention goes, energy flows. So by closing your eyes and meditating, that energy builds up within you. Fasting, preserving the energy, not accumulating things from the outside, whether it be food or information, but simply being, living and existing in the perfect moment, the only place we'll ever be as a human being, right here and right now. Can't escape it. The thing is, if we are caught in that pleasure trap, which is basically remembering something that brought us pleasure, oh, this felt good, and we project that onto the future, and then we're caught in this endless cycle of thinking about the past and the future, and that's taking us out of the mark, missing the mark, which is always right here, right now. But this concept about density, about entities that are operating from a higher level of consciousness, they have less physicality, less matter, less earthly density. They're less body, and they're more pure consciousness or pure awareness, because they've allowed that energy to rise within them, and they've realized their essence. And by not squandering it, they embody it. And in the Bible, it says, not to cast pearls before the swine. But I love you guys. And thus, I want to share what I got, what I know with you today. Because tomorrow may never come. And that's just a fact. And I've accepted that. You realize when you rise in energy, rise in consciousness, that, again, personal ambitions kind of are seen as a poison. You don't really have the typical motivation, that personal wantingness that's rooted in solar plexus. Because you operate more from the heart space and the higher densities, the higher dimensions of reality. And thus you seek to serve. And in doing so, you attain true happiness. You can say happiness is a choice. And by fulfilling certain choices, we attain happiness. And especially when those choices are not in self-service, they're in service of somebody else. Because then our genius is operating. Because we see life in a limitless sense. There's no end to serving others. Serving this one is very limited. There's only so much we can do with the body. There's nothing wrong with the body, it's just limited. So we want to think beyond this. We can say an idiot does, I'm not picking on anybody, but just, speaking candidly again, an idiot is somebody who feels that they must do something, it's their duty. And thus they suffer through life because they're continuously doing something that they don't really want to do, but they feel it's their duty. Whereas an intelligent person does what they love to do. They like their life to a certain extent. Whereas a genius does what's needed and useful. Do what the world needs and do it joyously. And thus they love to do it. They learn to do what's needed and useful. I'm not saying that the world depends on them, because we don't want to think too highly of ourselves again. But when we think beyond ourselves, naturally there'll be a certain sense of self-acceptance. Just when you don't judge others, when you love unconditionally, there's no room for attack. Nobody can attack you. Nobody can judge you. And if they do, then it's like, okay, is that all you got to say? It's a reflection of your mentality. Some inner work that you need to sort through. It has nothing to do with me. At least on the surface, fundamentally, of course, on a gestalt level, on the level of collective consciousness, this is one whole. It's all one consciousness. Thus, as you watch this, you're in essence watching yourself, right? That self-same essence within us. Of course, this might not appeal to some people logically. It's okay. What we know subjectively, you know what you know, right? And I want to share what I know. What you know subjectively isn't necessarily always logical. It's not necessarily linear. Our emotions are born from that which is not physical. The non-physical realm, right? If I were to take a scalpel and dissect your brain right now, if a doctor were to go in and perform operation on your brain, he's not going to find any physical emotions. Emotions aren't something you can tangibly touch, right? At least in the sense I'm getting at in this context. Of course, you can see it in people's body expressions, their mannerisms towards other people. You can see love in a look, how somebody looks at somebody else. It's not necessarily quantifiable, tangible, or touchable. It's a certain quality, a certain essence. See, the spirit values quality, whereas, we could say the lower densities values more quantity, accumulating. I want more. I'm not fulfilled. I'm disembodied, so I want to go and accumulate this and consume that and try to control this as if it was separate. And really, it's not. Sometimes a simple smile can, you know, could change somebody's life. Be a smile millionaire. When you see somebody, smile at him. Smile with them. You never know. They could be down in the dumps that day. They could be contemplating suicide. They could be really depressed. Just that simple smile, that simple act of lovingness could change them in ways you may not even know, might not even realize. The butterfly effect, right? The ripple effect. What previously may have been kind of fanciful, metaphysical, mystical, is now seen on a scientific level. It's truthful that every ripple, every thought, every deed, every action, every choice sends ripples throughout the collective consciousness, throughout the universe, and it finds its way back to us. It's all energy. And this can be proven scientifically. It's not just, new age thought or whatever people may label it. As you reap, so shall you sow. The energy you put out comes back to you. So we want to be conscious of the energy that we're putting out. And we want to learn to let go of negativity and certain beliefs and personal identities that may be bogging us down. You want to rise up in energy, embody a higher level of energy, a higher level of consciousness, and thus be operating from a higher density, less body, less earthly attachments, less being tied down to the earthly reality, because we perceive our essence. Of course, we can perceive our essence and operate from a high level of consciousness while still being grounded and enjoying this earthly experience wholeheartedly. Do what we're here to do, discover our purpose. Each of us undoubtedly has a purpose, a reason why we're incarnating now in our current form. Want to go within and discover that. And we can do that as we let go of negativity, as we rise up in energy. I'm going to leave it there. God bless, guys. Take care. I'll see you in the next one, whenever that is, if tomorrow comes.